Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Boundary Systems Wednesday webinar. My name is Michael Wimberly, and I will be discussing advanced data management for SolidWorks. So the overall agenda for this webinar is, of course, to give you a general introduction on myself and Boundary Systems as a whole, do an overview of the topic being SolidWorks with Windchill, and then, of course, do an actual demonstration of the information that with Windchill, and of course have a Q&A. All right, so myself, once again, I'm Michael Wimberly. I am a solutions architect for Boundary Systems. I have over 25 years of experience with PTC products, over 20 years of experience in training PTC products. I am certified to teach Creo and Windchill classes, and I'm also a certified Windchill implementation specialist. Boundary Systems as a whole, first, we are headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio. We have offices all over the world, so we do consider ourselves a global company. Some of our overall top partners are PTC, Solid Thinking, eTraj, Autodesk, as well as other technology companies. We are the 16th fastest growing company in greater Cleveland area, and we are also a part of PDSVISION group now. We have offices, or initially we had offices in, of course, the US and Canada, as well as South Africa and the Middle East. But now, by being a part of the PDSVISION group, we now have offices in multiple locations in Europe as well. So by bringing our resources together, we basically cover more PTC products as well as more area around the world. So if you have divisions that are global, more than likely we may have a resource in those particular areas, or at least close to those areas, that can assist. Our overall capabilities, of course, being product lifecycle management, data management, CAD design and consulting, simulation, as well as product development as a whole. Now, our overall mission is first to have the most technical expertise on PTC products of any company in the world. That is why our partnership with PDS was a very smart move, because combining their resources with our resources, we are basically one of the largest companies in the world with our technical expertise in multiple areas, not just core CAD, but we're also talking Windchill, ThingWorks, all those different applications associated with it. Now, by doing that, by having the most technical expertise, it also allows us to completely understand our customer needs. So by having discussions with our customers, we know what they're looking for. You know, by the descriptions that they give us, we can go through and understand what they need, plan out a solution that is best for them, and guarantee the success of that solution that we give them. Because we've gone through and we've talked to them, we've discussed with them, and we've given them what we think is best for what they're trying to do. So we stand behind what we give them. And of course, the overall goal of that is to decrease cost, decrease time to market, and increase quality of the products that our customers are actually producing. So by having all that information and by going in and giving them a solution that works, then we're able to go through and help them reach their goals better and potentially cheaper than they were doing it before, because we can give them better processes. Now, some of our actual solutions that we offer, besides the overall suite of PTC products, we also have Tactime, Modex, 3D, Xformation, eTraj, ITI, ZWCAD. So all these different things allow us to go in and hit different areas that PTC may not have expertise in. So we can go through and offer additional solutions that actually will work with different PTC products to help meet your overall goals. Now, as far as contact information, if you do want to get in touch with me, my contact information is there, mwimberly@boundarysys.com. You can also send information or send questions to our sales department at sales@boundarysys.com. And by all means, visit our website, where you'll see information about us, information about the software, what we offer, classes that we're going to teach, hands-on workshops that we're going to hold. So anything that you want related to Boundary Systems, of course, you will find it on our webpage. And of course, go onto YouTube, find our page, subscribe to our page. All of our webinars that we go in and conduct, including this one that I'm doing here, will be posted on there. So anything that any webinars that we've done in the past will be listed on that YouTube page. So definitely go there, do research. If there's things that we don't cover that you're interested in, send us an email and we'll look at going in and having a webinar on those particular topics if we haven't already covered them. All right, so going into the actual topic itself. Oh, if you do have any questions during this, right now everybody is muted, and I will unmute at the end. But if you do have any questions during the actual webinar, then in your GoToWebinar meeting setup on the right side, there is an area for questions. So go ahead and type them inside of there, and I will get to those either during the discussion or towards the end of it, or at the end of it, during the Q&A session. So with Windchill and SolidWorks, the Workgroup Manager is what is used to go through and communicate directly from SolidWorks into Windchill and vice versa. Previous versions of Windchill actually used the software downloads area to go in and download the Workgroup Manager. The requirement was that the Workgroup Manager and your version of Windchill had to be on the same build code. Well, that's been updated now because software, non-PTC software, are continuing to update and release. And instead of you having to go through and upgrade your entire Windchill, now the Workgroup Manager is available as a separate download on the software downloads page. So you can now download the latest build of the version of Windchill that you're on, and it still works. The benefit of that is you can stay on your Windchill system, can stay at the same build code that it's at, but now I can have a latest build code, the latest build code for my Workgroup Manager, which now works with the latest version of SolidWorks. So now SolidWorks 2021 is out. We can download the latest version of the Workgroup Manager of, I think mine is on 11.2. I can download the latest version of that and now be able to work with 2021 of SolidWorks versus having been stuck on whatever version of SolidWorks was released during that version of Windchill. We'll also go through and talk about the configuring of the setup of the Workgroup Manager, which is basically installation directory, where do you put it, environment variables that goes in and determines where the different elements that are involved with the Workgroup Manager, where those things are stored on your hard drive. So we'll talk about the environment variables for that. And when you go through and you download files, where are those files actually located on your local drive? So we'll go through and talk about that as well. And then of course, SolidWorks, as far as data management within Windchill, it is managed just like any other type of Creo data inside of Windchill. So the first thing, as I mentioned before, when you go to the software downloads page, there is now an actual area. There's now an actual area on here that specifies a Workgroup Manager for the software. And all you have to do is go to whatever release of Windchill you're working on, expand it, and then inside of there, you can download the latest version, the latest build of that particular release of Windchill. There are compatibility matrices that are out there that let you know which build code is compatible with which version of SolidWorks, CATIA, whatever it is you're working on. So that is available as well. So you can go in and look at that to see whether or not there is compatibility inside of there for the version that you're on. Or if you go to the latest version of the Workgroup Manager, does it support, how far back support does it actually have for SolidWorks? Because if it's like Creo, you may end up having multiple versions that you have installed, depending on customers that you're working on, if that's the kind of business that you're in. All right. Also, talked about a moment ago, where are all the setup information for Windchill and the Workgroup Manager stored on your local drive? So these are the files. Now, I did go in and give you, if you go into the PTC tech support area, you can go through and you can look specifically for this article, the CS 37576. That will go in and give you this actual link. Now, I did just copy the lower part of it, but it does have more above it. But the lower part is simply going in telling you how everything is set up inside the system. So you have the PTCWF root, which is basically the cache directory. So where is the cache located? You have the WLD root. This is once again locates the workspace local directory. The WGM root. You have the WVS, which is the virtual file system cache directory. Now, that is, you only need that if you're using Windchill 10.1 or earlier. If you're not using that, then you don't have to go through and set that one. And then you have the WFS root, which is the Windchill file system cache directory. And once again, that's for 10.2 and later. So of course your current version, and then the actual Windchill cache, which is where you have any additional space for cache. So here's an example of those directories. This is once again set up in the environment variables. So I will go in and show you, if you're not familiar with where that is, I'll go through and show you that as well. They do have a path here, control panel system advanced environment variables, and you simply go through and set up the actual value, or sorry, the name and then the value of that name. And you simply go in and set up where that information is. As you can see, it is using, a common directory, which is a cache directory, and then just the extension of each one of those variables from above. There's also, when you download files, there's also what they call the file system management. So where are those files downloaded locally? And that's what they're referring to here is if you do want to go through and set that up before you go in and install the Workgroup Manager, you can do that here. So the PTCWF default location, you can set up where that is, once again, as an environment variable, and then install the Workgroup Manager. If you've already installed the Workgroup Manager, then you can go into it, go into Tools, File System Management, and change where that path is in there as well. So I'll show you these in more detail when I actually go into the demonstration, which is next. All right. So the first thing I want to show you is, of course, here we have the environment for SolidWorks. So we actually have installed SolidWorks 2021. As I mentioned before, the environment variables can be set up. So one of the ways they talked about doing is going and searching for it. Another way is if you go to where it says, this PC, and if you right click on that and you go to properties, it will also bring up this control panel area. So what you want to do from here is on the left side, there's advanced system settings. Select on that. And that will bring up the system properties dialog box. And then in the systems properties dialog box, down at the bottom, you have environment variables. You simply go in and select on that. And then down here at the bottom, you can go through and set up those preferences. So as you can see here, I have those set up, and I specifically have those set up with my initials because multiple people can use this, but we're all using the same login for this. So I set up cache with my initials inside of here. If multiple people are logging in to your system using different login information, then you can set those variables up here at the top, because those variables are specific for this user. But if you're the only one using your system, then you can set them really in either location. So you would definitely use the top if you're multiple people are logging onto the same system. You can use the bottom, if you're the only one or everybody's writing to the same location. So this is where I set that information up here, and then I will go through and use that for my configuration. All right, once we have that information set up, now I could go through and I would set up Windchill or set up the Workgroup Manager. So in the Workgroup Manager, I'll open it up first just so we can look into it. I already have it registered for the Windchill server. So that's why on the left side, we see common space and workspace. But underneath tools is where we would go through and register it. When we first install it, we would go into the server management area. And because I've already installed it, it's asking me to log in. And now it brings up the server management. Now by default, once again, this would not be listed here. It would simply be no server, and I would go in and say register new server. Inside of here, give it the name of the server. Now, this will be important if you're going in and using paths in your to go in and access the data. So if there's a specific path that you're browsing to, then this name will be important, because that name now goes into that path. So, and if it's something that is used across the board by everybody, like Creo has a config file that can be shared, then as long as it's named the same in everybody's installation, then that setting will work for everybody. If not, then that would have to be set individually in everybody's individual setup file. So you would give it its name. The location is the URL. So the actual path to get to Windchill is what we put in here. We would simply go in and do a check. It would validate that we have typed it in right. It'll ask us to log in, and then we will go through and complete it. Now I've gone in and made it active. So we are actually going in and connecting to Windchill. So when I go in and select on common space, it will now take me directly into Windchill. Now, once again, this is using the Workgroup Manager, which is used as the connection between Windchill and SolidWorks. Also, the tools up here, I talked about the file system management. This is where we would go through and set up where, whenever we downloaded files, they would be located. I did edit this locally, so I've gone through and updated this path so that this is where my files, when they get downloaded, are downloaded to. All right, and then the last thing here is the application. Right now, I just have SolidWorks 2021 registered, but I can register all the way down to 2017 for SolidWorks with this latest build of the Workgroup Manager for 11.2. All right, so now that everything is registered, once I have the connection and I registered information and I validated that SolidWorks is connected, the next thing to do is really go in and start SolidWorks. And when you go through and you execute SolidWorks, what you will see is, as it's going in and validating everything, it will come up and show you the connection that it's going to make with the Workgroup Manager. It then pulls up the Workgroup Manager, and it's going to have you log in with your credentials. Once you do that, it will continue to start up. My apologies for the background noise. And now we're ready to work. So if I come in here and I just start something new, it will go through and I just begin working on the model. Now, what you will see is immediately it takes me to my PTC Windchill tab. So now, because it is connected with Windchill, I now have access to all the information inside of Windchill. So I can go in and create a new Cad document. I can open files directly from Windchill. So I can go into here. We do have some SolidWorks files in here. So I'll simply go in and browse. If you notice, I'm not going into the Workgroup Manager because I don't need to. That's just simply the connection between the two. So when I want to see what I've downloaded, that's when I go into the Workgroup Manager. And I'll show you that in just a moment. So I'm going to go into the common space. And then there is a product that we have that actually has SolidWorks data in it. And it is an assembly that was actually downloaded. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Now, what you see is it tells me down here in the right corner that add to workspace and download has finished, which means it's now gone in and added that information to my workspace. So it's physically downloaded those files into my workspace, which is on my local drive. And now I can go in and work on these files. So there's that assembly. And then once again, once I minimize this and I go to my Workgroup Manager, to my workspace, there are the files that I just downloaded. So, and then also those files are located locally here. So this is the path that I use. Now they're stored locally here, but don't go through this to go in and open them. Go through your regular Workgroup Manager. That's just simply where they're stored locally on the computer. But go through this because there is the option here of opening SolidWorks, or of course directly in SolidWorks to go in and just simply open up files. When you say open from Windchill, it will directly take you to your workspace, or you can browse into the common space to find files if you haven't already downloaded them. All right. So I'm just going to go into the browser now. So now what we're looking at is just simply SolidWorks data as a whole managed within inside of Windchill. As I mentioned before, it is managed just like any other data. So when I come over here, I have that product that everything is in. I'm going to go into its folders, and I can see the SolidWorks data here, including the WT parts that we've also created as well with relation to them. Each one of them, because we have a SolidWorks publisher to go in and create the files, or sorry, the viewables of the files, they're available for us to go in and view as well. We have these little thumbnails here. Over on the right side, there's also the option of where used, which goes in and tells us that this part is used inside of this assembly, which is the overall machine gun that I just pulled up in SolidWorks. So that's there, and you see that for all the different items. So everything here is assembled into that top level. So all these parts are are assembled individually into that top level. So with that, I can also, if I want to view it a little bit better, I can go in and open it also in Creo View. Creo View is a free viewer that comes with Windchill. We are going to be using Creo View Lite. which once again is free. Sorry. Which is free and allows us to go through and view the data. So even if you don't have a full Windchill license, you can go through and still view the files. So you may not be changing them in SolidWorks, but you may need to view the data. Creo View allows for that. So I can use this to go through and view it. There's additional things that we can do to go in and manipulate this. So depending on what it is that you want to look at, the direction that you want to look at it in, you can go through and set that up as well. So this is fully functional in the actual Creo View viewer. As I said before, this is free. It is part of the software downloads. This you can download directly from inside of Windchill. If you go over to Quick Links, there's the option for software downloads. And there is the Creo View installation. So you would go through and use that. Now, as I mentioned before, in previous versions, you would also see the Workgroup Manager as an option to download here as well. But as I mentioned, that's no longer here. The only thing that is available here are the desktop integration for document management, and of course, Microsoft Project, which will help you integrate with Project Link. When you're going to create a project plan, that project plan can be established inside of Microsoft Project and then imported into Project Link, or vice versa. You can create it in Project Link and then export it out and import it into Microsoft Project. All right. So as I mentioned, it's all this information is modifiable, updating. It maintains the history of the files. So you can see we're looking at A.2. If I go to history, it goes in and shows me the history of this file as to when it was actually checked in and who checked it in, as far as date-wise. So all this information is here. If I wanted to go in and download the A.1 version, I can still go in and do that and view that inside of SolidWorks as well. Instead of looking at A.2, I want to see what it was when it was an A.1. So I have that ability as well. Any related objects, this is the same as when we were looking at the thumbnail viewable, and it showed that it was assembled into this top level assembly. That's the same thing that we're looking at here. So it's showing the relationship between this part and the assembly or assemblies that it may be used inside of. So if there was multiple assemblies, they would all show up here. If there was a sub-assembly that was assembled into another assembly, it would show you that hierarchy as well. So you would see all of that listed right here. All right. And then, of course, just the overall content is nothing more than just the overall file itself. Now, if you do want to go through and we're using the life cycles and everything, and we want to go through and it's currently in work, but we want to release it, we can still go in and promote the objects. So we have the ability to go through and create a promotion request for those objects. And if there's something else that I wanted to collect, because these things do have WT parts associated with them, and I want to collect that information as well, I can go through and add my WT part and then specify that I want to promote these parts to production. I'm sorry, released. Say next, and then inside of here, I can go through and specify who it is that I want to go in and approve this. And then based on the workflow that is selected, these are the out-of-box ones. But if there's a customized one that we created, we can go through and specify that as well, and then specify the appropriate users that may not be selected by default. Once that's done, go through and finish that. And then me, as the person that was selected to approve that, will now get a refresh. I will now get a task to approve that promotion request. And all I'm simply doing is approving that file that I want to go in and now promote from the current state to the new state. And the current state, of course, being in work, and then the new state that we want to promote it to being released. So I can approve it, reject it, or rework it. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and approve it. And I'll just say approved. Just add a note, complete it. And now that file that we were just working on, go into here, or the files that we were just working on, are now at the release state. So, and once again, by going in and changing the states, not only are we visually changing it, but we're also going in and changing permissions on it as well. So once it's at the release state, now more than likely the permissions on that are simply view it or download it. There's no modification that may be available at the release state. If we need to make changes to it, we need to go in and revise it back to in work or promote it back to in work, depending on what's set up. But once again, by going in and working inside of Windchill, as I mentioned, all the files work exactly the same way. All the functionality inside of Windchill works the same way. So a CAD file is a CAD file to Windchill. So once it's in there, it understands relationships. It understands, of course, it can create the viewables with the proper worker or publisher setup. And then, of course, just going through the actual life cycle or the life of the object through promotions, change requests, revising, relating them to WT parts, adding document relationships with the WT parts, whatever's necessary. But once again, inside of here, once we're working on the file or we're opening up the files, once we're ready to go through and view them, I can go in and open up individual files. And make modifications to them. I'm going to change this from 6 to 6.5. Complete it. Great. Make sure it updates. Wonderful. Now, with that, there's a slight difference in SolidWorks. So with SolidWorks, when you go through, you can make changes to it, but before it allows you to save it, it will come over and tell you, hey, you do not have this item checked out, which means you've made changes to it, but you haven't told anybody that you're making changes to this file. By checking out the file, now you're basically notifying everybody else that you're going to be working on this file. If you don't want to go in and work on that file, I can go in and, check in the changes that you made to that file. I can hit continue, which will allow me to still make changes to it, but not with the intention of putting them back into the database. Or if this is a released file, I can revise it. So now it goes from A to B and check out the B version of it and make changes on that one instead. So just so we can see how this works, I will go ahead and do the checkout. Say okay. Checkout is started. And checkout has succeeded. which means now I have this file in my possession. So if I go back to my Workgroup Manager, I'll see this icon here. And that will let me know that I have it checked out. And anybody else that views this file will also see that I have it checked out. As a matter of fact, let me log in as a different user. That way we can see they're not familiar with what they see. All right, so when I go to that same directory and look at those files, I'll now see this little icon. And that icon will let me know that Michael Wimberly has this file checked out, which means they're intending on making changes to it and checking it back in. If this is something that I needed to work on or I needed to make changes to, I can now contact that person and see what it is that they're doing to this file and see if they can integrate my changes, or if they've even made changes to it. If not, they can go in and release their lock on that file or their checkout on that file and allow me to check it out and make changes to it. So we have that ability to do it as well. And that's simply doing an undo checkout if you're not actually going to make changes to it, or you have the check-in options here. All right, so other than that, once again, part of the main part of the Workgroup Manager is, of course, the setup to making sure that the folders are in the right location. Oh, that was something else I wanted to mention. When we go through and we're looking at the setting up of these paths, the Workgroup Manager does not like network drives. So we've had several issues recently where these have been mapped drives somewhere on the network and it threw up errors. So the recommendation is that these files are located locally on your machine. C drive, D drive, whatever it is, you have it labeled as, but it should be a local drive that these are located on. Once again, because we've seen recently that having these on the network drive, including this path, has given us issues. So we want to make sure that that information is stored locally. All right. At this point, are there any questions on anything that has been covered today? All right, if not, then once again, we are offering classes. We, of course, are doing a lot of our classes virtually. We have started to do in-center again or on-site. So we are doing that as, you know, restrictions start to loosen up a little bit. The COVID starts to decline. So yes, companies are now opening up their doors, but you know, there's still some restrictions that they have internally, but they're allowing us on site again to do training classes. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let us know. You can contact us once again by email, me, or you can even go to our training site at support.trainingptc.com and you can see our actual training schedule. If there's something that is not on there that you're interested in, let us know. And we will be more than happy to look into having that class. With enough people, we can actually come on site to do it. If not, then we'll have to put it on our schedule and try to get additional people to attend the class. All right, so once again, if you do have any questions, reach out to me, mwimberly@boundarysys.com or sales@boundarysys.com. Once again, access our website, boundarysys.com, or our YouTube channel. Once again, search for Boundary Systems. Subscribe to the channel, and then of course you'll always be able to go through and view any of our previous webinars. And as I said, this one will also be posted on that YouTube channel as well. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you tuning in, and we look forward to you attending one of our next webinars. Have a great remainder of your day.